Hi, everybody. Delighted to be joined by Augusta Vivian of Higson today. First of all, Augusta, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, John?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. So, great. Let's get straight into it then. So, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your business, Higson? What is it you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a range of all sorts of different businesses, from small charities through to large companies, and we help them with their communication and sales. And we do that through two things. One is through consulting and advising them on how to structure in terms of competency frameworks and giving feedback and running appraisals, through to actually, and the core of what we do is running training workshops with teams to really help them make behavior changes. And so that might be internal communication around team culture, and it might be external communication, pitching, public speaking, negotiating, running effective meetings.
Amazing. Great. So, we're going to get into some of those things you mentioned there because I think they're really interesting for our audience. But first of all, just tell us a little bit about your journey to starting your business then. Was it something, did you always intend to say, right, I'm going to start a company after X years, or how has your career developed to this point?
No, I'm not one of those people that said, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for it. It was a bit by accident, actually, really. And I had a bit of a wiggly route. I studied psychology and just loved and find it fascinating learning about people. But then actually went sort of more into the charity space and worked with children and along set up a charity and worked more with young people. Adored that, learned lots of skills, found it brilliant, but something kind of thought I want to just do something a little bit different. And so moved more into the consultancy space by accident because I was working with the charity, and through where I was working for that charity, I was just volunteering, but it happened to be in the office of a consultancy, and I ended up kind of looking over someone's shoulder and asking what they were doing and then helping them, and then ended up being pulled into a project. And through that journey, learned I really loved consultancy. What I loved about it is, I mean, consultancy means so many different things, but what I essentially loved about it was the problem solving part. But what I didn't love was sitting behind a laptop and not being with people. So I thought, well, I love consultancy and I love people. And so tried to find something that brought those two things together, and went along the journey of sort of training, and actually found that I didn't find a company that had exactly the values and the culture that I really believed in and wanted to work at. So I thought, well, actually it was my clients who said to me, well, why don't you set something up, Augusta? Come on. And I thought, me set something up? I'm not sure about that. But they were very supportive. And so I thought, okay, well, why not? I've got nothing to lose, give it a whirl. And so set something up. And the main reasons were so that I could create a culture that I really believed in. I'm very passionate about the environment, very passionate about our impact that we have on the world around us. And I'm very passionate about employee engagement. And what I found was that lots of the sort of consultancies that did training as well weren't always focused on their people. They were focused on making money and getting projects done. And I really wanted to work in this place that loved their people and engaged their people, as well as doing brilliant client work. So that's my real mission, and that's why I set up Higson.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it's always fascinating to hear everyone's journey into how they started their business. I think that's quite a nice story there in terms of people actually requesting it from you. Probably a good organic way of starting a new business. So tell us a little bit about the structure of the company then, because I believe you have some colleagues that you work with. So what's their roles and how does that support what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, so we've got a small team, there's 4 of us, and we're actually just recruiting at the moment, and we've been amazed at the incredible applications that we've had. It feels like more people are moving towards small businesses and really looking for that small team feel. So we've had some really fantastic interviews actually this week, and I've just had one just before, and I've got some more later on. So very exciting times. We all work together, so there's not really a hierarchical approach. We work together as a team. Of course, they're my employees and I'm their boss, and we have one-to-ones with them every week. But that's not important. The important thing is being a team together. So it's very open culture. Everyone gives feedback to each other. We have regular one-to-ones every week, and we also have a team meeting. So Friday, we're not allowed to do any client work unless it's, we can't find any other time to do it. But we really focus that day on being a team together. And that's where we learn and develop new skills. We always have to all present something we've learned from the week and share our mistake of the week. That's really important, the culture that we feel is that we shouldn't be afraid of failure. We all fail all the time, and we've got to learn from it and empower ourselves to be honest about it. So that's kind of how our team works in terms of structure, and also I guess I answered a little bit more there on our week.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, how you set that up. That's really good to hear. And since you're right in the heart then of the recruitment process, because we've spoken about that a little bit on these interviews, how do you find that? Do you have a sort of recruitment process you've developed over time that seems to be quite effective for you, or?
Yes, very strict recruitment process. And the reason for that is that we all have quite a lot of unconscious bias. Even if we pretend we don't, we do. And so we are very strict in the process that we lay out for recruitment. Spent quite a lot of time kind of tweaking it from the beginning, and have also done lots of research into it for other businesses and other clients that we're working with. So have pulled together a process that's got multi-layers. And one of the things that we do, which the feedback that we've had that is quite unique about our recruitment process, is that we ask people to create a workshop and train us. And we give them what we're looking for. We tell them exactly what we're looking for. We give them feedback, and we ask them to represent it again. And what we're looking for there is we're looking for people can tell you how good they are, but seeing them in action and seeing them show you the skills that you're recruiting them for is so critical. So that's something that we do. And then the key part of that is actually, how do they react to feedback? They might say they've got a growth mindset, but do they have a growth mindset? When we give them feedback, are they defensive? Or do they ask for it? Do they lap it up? Do they implement it? And do they show us that they have done it? So there's kind of two reasons why we built that bit. I mean, that's kind of part of about 8 different bits of the interview, but that's the bit that I think is a little bit different from other people.
Right. Oh, wow. Really interesting. Yeah. No. So you've established this team now, and you're looking to add into it. How do you feel, or what do you do, should I say, to have your own sort of culture and team environment? How do you develop that for your own business then?
Yeah, I guess to build a culture, you've got to lead the way, haven't you? You've got to set an example. So as an example, I'm very strong on people taking holiday and making sure that they do have a break away from work. Work-life balance is really important. There's so much research to show that a lot of creative thought happens when you're not looking at a laptop, when you're not engaged in the work. And so to set an example, I turned off my phone last week when I went away on holiday, and I wasn't contactable in that time. Of course, if there was an emergency that they could have called my husband, but the fact is I had my phone off, and what I'm doing is setting the example. That's very hard for me to do, being your own business. I imagine lots of people relate to this. It's very hard to switch off. It's very hard to step away. It's very hard to think, but what if something terrible goes wrong? And you think, what? We'll sort it out when I get back. And so by doing that took quite a lot of self-restraint from my side, but it was really critical, because I was the first of the team to take the kind of August stint of holiday. And so now I know this week one of my team is away, and she now feels comfortable to also do the same thing. So that's just a small example, but really we lead by example. So the way that we do our team meetings, the way that we always give feedback after everything that we do. I ask for feedback, I give feedback. So I think the only way that you can create a culture is not by writing down what you want your culture to be, but by acting it out. And so we have very strong values, which we built as a team, which we review regularly. We set our goals around our values, not around numbers. And then so we are always, it's in the behavior that we demonstrate.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think it's very easy to say these things, isn't it? But to actually, speaking from experience, to live it through practice and show your colleagues that that's what you're looking for them to do is more difficult. So that sounds really good. So when you are in work mode, whether it's in the office or working remotely, as most of us are now, how do you maintain focus? Obviously, we're in a world full of distractions. You've got client calls coming in, emails, your colleagues probably asking questions, all that sort of thing. What do you do to maintain focus and deliver good work?
That is such an important thing, John, and I think probably the most critical thing that any of us can do is maintain focus. And it actually takes, I'm sure you know this, 15 minutes for us to get into what's called deep work and for us to focus. So the world that we live in, as you say, ping, ping, ding, ding, all these things going off all the time can pull us out of that deep work. So I plan my week and I plan my day, and I know what I'm doing at each time of the day. And the reason that that's so important for me, and I think for many people, is that when you come in the morning, you've got 40 emails, you've got a massive to-do list, and you can end up flitting about and doing absolutely nothing because you don't know where to start. So for me, what's really important is when I come in, When I start my day, I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm going to do next. And I block time to do my emails because, of course, we need to respond to our clients. But I don't have my emails popping up. My email notifications are off. And I will set time to look at my emails. I heard recently on a podcast that one should never check their emails reactively. So it should always be a proactive, engaged activity, just like a meeting. And that's something that I think is so important, especially at the moment when we're recruiting. I'm probably getting about 40 emails a day, just applications. And so imagine if every time one of those came in, I was pulled out of what I was doing. But it can be tempting, and then it can be overwhelming when you get to your inbox. But if you're just scrolling through your inbox, you're doing someone else's to-do list. So for me, it's blocking that time, knowing what I'm doing, blocking the email time and sticking to it. And at the start of each day as a team, we all get on a Zoom call. Every morning we have a kickoff meeting just to kind of find out how everyone is. Not compulsory to join if anyone doesn't want to because they want to lie in that day or they're doing something else, no problem. But for those who want to join, and we set our 3 key goals that we're going to get done that day. And I think the problem that some of us have is that we try and set 10 goals for the day, and it's unlikely that that's going to happen. So it's 3 goals. What am I going to be pleased with at the end of today? Because there's going to be some reactive stuff that's going to happen, but what 3 things I'm going to get done and tick off? So those are the key things. Firstly, blocking my time. Secondly, turning off my email notifications and only ever doing that proactively. And then thirdly, what I've just mentioned. So I think just bringing all of those things together can help to really focus and get into that deep work.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's some absolute gold there for our audience, and things that I have learned from experience of doing the wrong things on that. And as I can't remember who said it first, but it is a case of sort of like either the day can run you or you can run the day, and that's where that email perpetuation of going through them all, can't it? And before you know it, you've 5, 6 o'clock, and it's like, wow, my day's complete. So that's really useful information for the audience. Okay, so let's move on to goal setting then. What's your approach to that? You mentioned kind of the 3 key goals for each day there for your team, but what about goals for the business? Do you set them on a monthly, quarterly basis? Do you use that as part of your management process?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do around goal setting is we set, I guess, a few different types of goals. So I'll start with the biggest goals, are actually yearly goals. So of course I dream and think about where we'll be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But one of the things that I feel very strongly about is the organic growth of the business. And you can never predict what's going to happen. We've all just, lived through a pandemic. And so setting really long goals can be detrimental. And also as a human, we're not motivated by really long-term goals. So for us, we set 1-year goals as a team. And those goals are set around our values. So we've got a goal for each of our values this year. And if we hit those goals as a team, all of us, then we go on a holiday. And we go away for a weekend to, so we're meant to be in Norfolk this year, but that was right at the start of lockdown, so we've just slightly adjusted, and we're off in November instead. And so if as a team we hit those goals, we go away on a holiday to celebrate together. So that's kind of the big goals, and an example of what one of those goals is around one of our values, that is to continuously learn and continuously improve. Every week, one person from the team has to share something, we call it a learn, with the rest of the team. So each person knows the week that they're doing, and we take it in turns. And so if we miss a week, then we won't achieve our goal. So throughout the whole year, every week, one of us has to have done a learn every Friday at the team meet, and that's one of our goals. And the reason for that and what it leads into, you might think, gosh, that's a very silly little goal, but really what that means is that we're always learning, we're always developing. And for us, being at the forefront of research and always having the most up-to-date content is critical to the success of our workshops. And a lot of the new content we develop comes from those learns. So it has that bigger impact that starts from a very small thing that we can measure each week. Then on a monthly basis, we have individual goals. So with each of my team members, we sit down every month and we look at what their goals are for that month. And that might be a development goal, might be around improving their confidence in public speaking, for example. That might be something that they're working on that month. Or it might be something around the hours of delivery they want to do. So we will sit down and set those monthly goals and monitor those on a weekly basis. And if they achieve them, then get a reward for that. That might be as a team that we celebrate together and we do a game. It might be something bigger, but we always kind of make sure there's that recognition. And then we have the daily goals, as we've mentioned. There's 3 each day. So there's those sort of 3 levels within the business of goal setting.
Yeah, really interesting. And I think aligning those to the values is a key part that I reckon is quite often overlooked really in goal setting, isn't it? And the second thing you mentioned there around sort of the reward side of things, whether it's for the annual goals and the team going away, how important do you think that is in terms of the goal setting process to reward when these things are achieved?
Really important. So one of the biggest ways that people are motivated is recognition, and it's something that can so easily be overlooked. And actually, it's not a huge cost to the business. It's not a huge cost to time. It's something that's just so critical to employee engagement. And I've just written a blog about it recently about, I don't know if you know the language of love, but there's 5 languages that we can show our love through. And what I when I read the book a couple of years ago, I thought, gosh, this really relates to recognition. And I've been meaning to write a blog on it for a while, but I recently just got around to making time to write that. And so the 5 different languages of love are service, quality time, words, touch, and gifting. And that really relates actually to recognition. So when we say recognition, we don't mean give a bonus, give a pay rise. Of course, those things are great, but actually giving a $5,000 pay rise can have as much impact as giving someone a £10 voucher to go out for coffee, because it's about the recognition. And so what people get wrong is that they think they just have to up people's salary to recognize them, but then they don't even tell them that they've done it, or they don't see it for 6 months, and it has a completely opposite impact. So recognition has to be done in a timely way, has to be personalized, it has to be meaningful. You have to show that you care, and you have to work out the language of the other person. Don't just be giving them awards all the time when really all they want is they're really motivated by words. So I think it's so critical to get that right.
That's really interesting. I think it's in the Culture Code. I don't know if you've read it by Daniel Cole, but I think he references that it's no coincidence that lots of high-performing, successful teams use thank you a lot, whether it's on a daily basis, but also backed up with the reasons being for that. So it's sort of authentic. So I think that's really interesting, because it's not something we've touched on before in terms of reward. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you mentioned earlier about sort of, rather than being stuck behind the screen, being there with clients and things. Obviously that's been challenging of recent months. So how have you found delivering your services, particularly the training, I suppose, remotely? What's been the transition like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different business model. We pre the new virtual world, we were delivering training face-to-face with groups of about 10 people in a room. That was sort of the business model. And now it's completely changed. We run our workshops over Zoom, and we have groups of no more than 6 to keep that small interactive environment. And so we actually just paused and took 2 weeks at the beginning when the change happened, and looked internally and thought, well, what do we want to do? How do we want to tackle this and deal with this? And we just decided then and there to convert to a virtual business. And we did lots of research into it, and we redesigned all of our material. And then we almost relaunched as a sort of virtual business. And we went to all of our clients and explained to them what we were doing and why we thought it could work with them. And actually have converted all of our clients to the virtual training. And there's a lot of pros of it. And we know that going forward, we'll keep an element of this virtual working and also this virtual training. So I feel incredibly lucky that that we did what we did, that we stopped, we paused, we looked at what we wanted to do, we recreated, we came together, and then we sort of almost relaunched. And our clients have been absolutely amazing at supporting us as well, and continuing to invest in their people at a difficult time. So it's been a completely different journey to what we imagined 2020 would look like. We've learned a lot, but it's been mostly mostly positive.
Oh, brilliant. And when you're consulting and speaking to your clients through this transition, are there any common themes that you're seeing people are either struggling with or they're asking you for support on?
Yeah, that's actually changed a bit throughout the journey. So at the beginning, the key theme was productivity at home. So how do I work from home productively. It's different. It's difficult. I mean, look, you can see I'm not in an office. I'm in a home environment, and for some people, that's challenging. How am I meant to work in this environment? It feels like I'm at home. So that was the key theme at the beginning, and that's what we spent a lot of time helping our team. And then it moved out, once people kind of mastered that, it moved towards sort of being a bit lonely, how to motivate myself when I don't have very much interaction with my team. So then we started working more with teams on that. And then more recently, it's been, how do we keep that team communication? So how do we communicate in a way that's effective over virtual? So it's different. You can't have eye contact over a virtual communication. So how am I building bonds? Because eye contact improves confidence, credibility, trust. So we've now moved into more around helping people with the virtual communication, and sales needs to happen again. How to sell virtually, how to network effectively. So we've sort of moved through different themes.
No, absolutely, yeah, and I think because it's gone on for such a long time and people have had to adapt, obviously it's transition, isn't it? And sort of closing the loop a little bit really on your earlier point about the hire that you're making in the recruitment process. What's that been like for remote then? Because I've spoken to a few business owners who have sort of had challenges or even put off recruitment because they feel it's difficult to onboard someone in a situation like this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's odd to think that I'm going to hire someone without having ever actually met them. And I think that's something just to recognize and realize that it is unusual. But one thing I've noticed, and sadly this might just be a reflection of society right now, but there seems to be a lot of brilliant people looking for jobs. So from my perspective, it's we've had brilliant people apply, and I don't know whether that is due to society right now, or whether more people are attracted to small businesses. It's probably a little bit of a mixture of both. But actually recruiting virtually it actually takes less time. So I was actually talking to one of my clients who's had to do the same thing, and she was saying, I've never hired someone so quickly, because you can get all of your team on a call, even though they might be anywhere around the country, and we can all interview this person, and we can jump on a call afterwards, and we can decide what we think and go through the assessment together. So it's definitely sped up our recruitment process. We've been able to have about 9 interviews in one day. I mean, face to face, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And so so it's helped speed up the recruitment process. And I guess being able to live share your screen and things like that's been helpful with some elements of the recruitment. In terms of onboarding, we actually hired someone just before we went into lockdown. So they had 3 days before we went. So we have onboarded someone through the virtual platforms, through Zoom, and he's absolutely brilliant, and we haven't had any problems with doing it virtually. So I feel confident that even though we're all adjusting in a new world at the moment, it does work onboarding virtually. And we've got a 8-week program that's mapped out anyway, week by week, what they have to do around teamwork, individually, tasks, knowledge, resources, books to read. So that makes it a little bit easier to do virtually, I suppose.
Right, absolutely, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for sharing all of that. I think this is a great episode for our audience. So I'm sure they're going to get a lot of value from it. Best of luck with the hire. Congrats on all your success so far. Sounds like you've done a brilliant job of pivoting through to this new world we're all getting used to. So brilliant. Thanks very much again for joining us, Augusta. All the best.
Thanks, John.